There is a lot going on in the country, specifically with Donald Trump. To help me go through that, I have Roger Stone. Roger, thank you so much for joining me.
Stephen, it's great to be back with you. You're right about a lot going on. We've never really seen anything like this in our country. It is the use of the criminal justice system against political opponents, and it's a travesty. I mean, as this case has unfolded, it's become clearer and clearer that there is no case. There's still no evidence that Donald Trump broke the law, and it's a contrivance. It really is. But I've been through this before. In many ways, it's amazing to me, Stephen, the way that my own trial was the template for this, kind of like the test case, the prototype. Just as the president has been gagged, I was gagged. Just as I was not allowed to introduce as an expert witness the former head of cybersecurity at the CIA, Trump has been unable to use as a witness the former chairman of the Federal Election Commission, who would have testified that the transactions in question had, there was no crime. It really is amazingly similar when you look at our cases. The tactics that have been used are almost identical.
Yeah. Why is the Secret Service and the police and the jail system there in New York, why are they talking about how to accommodate President Trump? Are they going to arrest him?
Well, that's not clear. First of all, I'm not a lawyer. A lawyer I spoke with this weekend told me that even if the president were to be convicted, first of all, there's a period of time between conviction and sentencing. And then normally he would be free on bond pending appeal. But there's nothing typical about this case. So we have no way of knowing what their intention is. The reason they're talking about it is to create a news story because this jury is not sequestered. And therefore, everything that is in the media cycle is impacting on the jury and on the public. That is the whole purpose of this case. In the end, I think the prosecutors know that even if they were to get a conviction, which is still an open question, it would ultimately be overturned on appeal. But as long as that happens after the election, they don't really care.
Gotcha. Okay. Tell me your thoughts about, within days of each other, President Biden goes to Morehouse College. He tells Black Americans that they are victims, their country is against them, they're likely to die, and that even though they love America, America does not love them back. You juxtapose that with the Bronx speech of Donald Trump saying, America loves you, it needs you, this is the land of opportunity, we can make the Bronx great again, and then goes off on a 10-minute tangent about how to be successful. What are your thoughts on these two speeches?
Well, first of all, it's kind of ironic that Joe Biden, the father of the 1994 crime bill, who was chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, really shifted the entire focus in the war on drugs from drug kingpins, drug cartels, drug syndicates to mandating the first time nonviolent, mandating the sentences for the first time nonviolent crime of possession of small amounts of drugs, which has been used disproportionately to incarcerate hundreds of thousands of Black people and poor people. This is the same Joe Biden who in 1972 ran for the U.S. Senate. The centerpiece of his campaign was opposition to the desegregation of the Delaware school system, saying that if the Delaware public schools were desegregated, it would be, quote, a jungle, and I don't want my daughter going to school in a jungle, close quote. That isn't the dog whistle. I don't know what is. It is clear that Trump's message is one of economic opportunity. First of all, it is a message of criminal justice reform because as president, the First Step Act, the Second Chance Act, the only two pieces of criminal justice reform legislation and law in decades began to address the inequities in the 1994 crime bill. But then on top of that, Trump, I think, is a candidate of opportunities, a candidate of economic growth. And places like the South Bronx need that perhaps more than anything else. Trump, I suspect, will be talking about his platinum plan, which is very much based on a plan put forward by Richard Nixon, 1968, which he called black capitalism. It is, on the one hand, an uplifting message of aspiration and success and opportunity versus this message of victimization seeking to divide Americans. Why are they doing this? Well, the polls, I think, tell us the story. If you look at any poll where the methodology is relatively solid, you do see Trump making incremental but still very significant gains among black voters. And without the kind of 80 to 85% margin that Obama had 4 years ago, 3+ years ago, he can't possibly win, and they know it. So I think they're very freaked out that Trump is gaining among Black Americans. He's gaining among Hispanic Americans. He's gaining among younger Americans. He's gaining among Asian Americans. I mean, the tea leaves are not good, and that's why we're going for this over-the-top, divisive rhetoric.
Okay. Over the last week, I've been amplifying independent journalist Laura Loomer's reporting about how Representative Dan Goldman is sending excessive amounts of money to Judge Juan Merchan's daughter's home in Virginia. Another person in New Jersey, Cory Booker, Governor Kathy Hochul, and many others, Hakeem Jeffries. Is this Trump-hating, people wanting Trump jailed off of the campaign trail? Are they funding the Merchan family dynasty in hopes that he will turn a blind eye and convict the former president?
I doubt that's exactly what it is. First of all, I think all of Laura Loomer's reporting is accurate. But the point here, of course, is that the judge's daughter, who's an adult, is a Democrat fundraising consultant. All those people you just named are clients of hers. The point, of course, is that she's using this case as the focal point for her fundraising. And therefore, therein lies the conflict in interest. I don't think people are sending money to the judge's daughter to affect the judge. I think people are paying the judge's daughter fees for fundraising that she does on their behalf, but utilizing the trial as the focal point of that fundraising. Either way, it does present a substantial financial conflict of interest.
Yeah. There's no chance he's going to recuse himself at this point, correct?
I can't see it. Trump's lawyers, just as my lawyers moved that the judge in my case recuse herself and she refused, Trump's lawyers have moved that the judge recuse herself. They moved for a change of venue, given the Democratic makeup of the city, Manhattan specifically. Same thing my lawyers did, denied. So in this case, the judge actually made a campaign contribution to Joe Biden's presidential campaign. And although it was only $15, that's really not the point. The New York State canon of judicial ethics prohibits judges from giving political contributions. The judge is in violation. So on those two bases, one, that he's a Biden donor, and two, that his daughter is benefiting financially directly from this trial, yes, he should recuse himself, but there's clearly very little chance of that.
Okay. I know Trump is up against a lot and still a lot to come, but in what ways, from your perspective, is Donald Trump winning and trending in the right direction?
Well, first of all, I do think the American people are seeing through this. I mean, Michael Cohen was, even though we're not allowed to see the actual courtroom proceedings, this, of course, is very widely reported. And I think having all those Republican members of Congress appear outside the courthouse to make the case, those are political statements in the sense that there is no crime here. In other words, for this financial crime to be a felony, it has to hide some underlying crime. But there is no underlying crime. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Southern District of New York examined this transaction, decided to bring no charges. The Federal Election Commission itself examined the charges, the transactions, decided to bring no charges. So it's kind of a mystery. The bookkeeping stuff is not a crime in itself. It's only a crime if it is being used to facilitate some larger underlying crime. And the government has not been able, under Mr. Bragg, to articulate what that is. In fact, instead, they put up 4 possibilities. It's kind of like pick one. You jurors can pick any one. And now the judge has ruled, and again, Stephen, I'm not an attorney, but the judge has ruled that if a majority of the jurors pick any, if a majority pick any different predicate crime, you don't have to have all jurors agree that Trump committed one specific predicate crime. Will this get overturned? Lawyers I respect tell me that it most certainly will, that Trump would win on appeal, but they don't really care about this because it's all about timing. It's about having a conviction against Donald Trump prior to the election.
Okay. He did very well with this rally in New Jersey. Over 100,000 people showing up. I think the media, I think a lot of Americans were caught off guard by the level of support and success. He's also doing really well. He's trending in the right direction in the state of Virginia, which would give him a lot of electoral votes. He himself has said he thinks that he might be able to flip New York. Are New Jersey, Virginia, New York, are those a good use of his time and money, or should he continue to focus on the swing states? What are your thoughts?
Well, at this point, of course, he's pinned down in New York and he has to be there, which makes making these forays to the Bronx, making a foray to the Jersey Shore, making a foray to go to the wake of the New York City police officer who was killed by a man with 21 priors out on Long Island. These are all, I think, highly symbolic and important. New Jersey could very well be in play. Liberals have no sense of humor. I posted a picture of Woodstock. I posted a picture of a Rod Stewart concert and said, look at these crowds. People went out of their minds. 100,000 people is 100,000 people. I also posted the pictures of the real aerial shots of this rally. Now, look, I worked for Ronald Reagan. I worked for Richard Nixon. I've worked for other presidential candidates. Trump is a phenomena in himself. He's a force of nature. There is no other figure, I don't think, in America, pop culture figure or political figure, who could get 100,000 people to the Jersey Shore. I mean, it's a phenomenal feat. Now, I would concede to you, not all those people were from New Jersey, most definitely. Some were from Pennsylvania, another swing state. Some were from New York, which may or may not be within grasp. It's a little too early to say, but if New Jersey were to flip, which I think is entirely possible, that would be expanding the map very substantially. In the end, however, I still believe we're going to come down to about, the 6 known swing states and about 60 key counties. We got to get through this trial and see what the impact on the trial is on the people. And we won't know that, of course, until we know the verdict of the trial. I think, based on what I've read and lawyers I've talked to, it is unlikely that any of the other cases that are being brought against Trump in this tsunami of lawfare are likely to get to trial before the election. The one in Florida may not get to trial at all. Just hours ago, the judge in that case refused to issue the gag order that special counsel Jack Smith asked for in that case. The judge has been very aggressive in unredacting the filings by the government. In essence, they want to try Trump in secret, so we really never know what those documents that we're fighting over are. What are those documents? What did they pertain to? And of course, trying him under the Espionage Act is questionable because there is no active espionage here. Trump didn't try to give or sell the documents to any foreign power, nor would he. So I think Trump's lawyers are right that his handling of the documents in the Florida case should be governed by the Presidential Records Act. Now, Judge Amy Berman Jackson, who just ironically was the judge in my case, ruled in a documents case that former President Bill Clinton could do anything with the documents that he wanted, including keeping them in his sock drawer. So the question you have to ask yourself is, why are there one set of rules for Clinton and a different set of rules for Trump? Once again, the special counsel who examined Joe Biden's retention and handling of documents very clearly said in his final report that Biden willfully violated the law and that he had these documents and that was a violation of law. But then he went on to say that, well, Biden shouldn't be prosecuted because he's old. That seems strange to me. And then on top of it all, and this is before your time, but one of the most important cases pertaining to executive privilege was when Richard Nixon argued that the famous Watergate tapes, the famous White House tapes, were his personal property, and he should not have to turn them over to the courts or the Congress or the public. He lost that case, meaning the Supreme Court reversed, 170 years of precedent recognizing the principle of executive privilege because Nixon was extraordinarily unpopular after the mainstream media beating that he took in the pre-internet days when there was no way to launch a counter-offensive. Now, however, the Biden Justice Department says that the audio tape of Joe Biden's interview with special counsel Robert Hur should not be released. Well, why? Because of executive privilege. These people are unbelievable when it comes to trying to have it both ways.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing to me that, now they're using executive privilege. And I think it's just because he probably sounds like a bumbling idiot on those tapes, and they desperately need those to not reach the public ear.
I think that's an excellent analysis. Look, their whole argument about whether he is vital enough, strong enough, whether he's a stamina to do the job is undermined by the special counsel's report. Then you have this upcoming debate, which is I'm scratching my head about a little bit. I think what happened here is that President Biden challenged President Trump to a debate, virtually certain that he would decline because the host, the sponsor, was CNN, and because the rules were decidedly disadvantageous to Trump. To Biden's surprise, President Trump accepted immediately, despite the fact that the rules are not advantageous or that it's not even a level playing field. This would be historic because, as you know, Stephen, we have never had a presidential debate prior to the two major national parties nominating their candidates for president. So a June debate would really be out of the ordinary. I guess I would argue that there's very substantial risks for both Biden and Trump. Huge risk for Biden, who I suspect did not want this debate and was confident that Trump would decline it. Now, if Trump says yes and sticks to these rules, Biden will have to show up. You may have seen the Biden campaign last Friday asking that the two candidates be seated for 90 minutes. Trump declined. Joe Biden can stand up for 90 minutes, just like Donald Trump, or maybe he can't. Who knows? And then also substantial risk for Trump. Not that Trump is not a great debater, but this idea of turning off Trump's microphone while Biden is speaking really, I think, takes away from the idea of a give and take debate. People don't want to hear two plastic politicians giving canned statements. First, there's this canned statement, then there's this canned statement. People want a real debate. It's an American tradition at this point. Whether this debate really happens remains to be seen. As you know, President Trump has more recently demanded that Joe Biden take a drug test prior to the debate. That's an interesting take. I think that's based on Biden's hyped up performance in the State of the Union address, and then the way he seemed to kind of wind down after a while.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And then no audience at the debate is really unique as well. Now, do you think my thinking is, are the Democrats willing to do this unique, one of a kind CNN debate because they need time to possibly replace Joe Biden if he just gets, Trump just mops the floor with him? Or are they going to stick with him no matter what the outcome of the debate is?
I think that is exactly what you say in the former, meaning the guy with the most to lose here is Joe Biden. If he belly flops in this debate that early, then there's more than enough time for him to announce that in retrospect, his health will not allow him to be a candidate. He's releasing his delegates, even though he has more than enough delegates to be nominated. And then the convention would be wide open. The convention could draft any Democrat they wanted for the nomination. I've said in many occasions, including on your show, that I believed in that instance, the candidate they would seek to draft would be Michelle Obama. She would be the most popular Democrat in the country, other than her husband, who cannot run for another term based on the Constitution. She could raise whatever it takes. She could divorce herself, strangely enough, from the failed policies of this administration. I still believe that's a very real possibility. Now, Biden is a very stubborn guy. I mean, I don't think he was going to go easily, but this debate could be a flashpoint in that regard.
Yeah, that's I'm kind of hoping for that. And yet at the same time, I want it to come down to Trump and Biden. Okay. Final question. I appreciate you coming on. How does RFK Jr. play into this, and who might he hurt or help most, Trump or Biden?
Well, first of all, we don't even know that RFK is going to be on the ballot in enough states to theoretically win 270 electoral votes. He says he is, but that doesn't mean that he definitely will be. I would point out to you that the laws that govern ballot access are written by Republicans and Democrats working together to make it as difficult as possible. So these laws are arcane, they're complicated, they're demanding, they're time consuming, they're labor intensive. You don't just sign a form and pay a fee. You have to file a certain number of signatures, many times a certain number per congressional district for a minimum number of congressional districts within a given state. So it's unclear whether he will be on the ballot. Therefore, for him to demand that he should be in the June debate, why? We know at this point, at least, Biden and Trump will be, at least in the case of Trump, most certainly the candidate of their party. Biden, you'd have to say, is the likely candidate of his party. Still not certain that RFK will be on the ballot. And then where do his votes come from? I think that you can't make one blanket statement on that. I think it depends on the state. Different state polls show different things, but the most recent data tended to indicate that he was taking a disproportionate number of votes from President Trump, which is why the Trump campaign has been highlighting RFK's positions on abortion on demand, highlighting his position on global climate, whatever you call it, saying that people should be arrested if they didn't believe in his climate agenda, highlighting some of his more leftist positions. As you know, he's kind of changed his position on the Second Amendment. I don't know how sincere that is, but it's a premature question. Let's see how many states he gets on the ballot in. I also think he's been greatly undermined by his choice of a running mate. Nicole Shanahan posting on X, formerly known as Twitter, complaining about internet censorship when she was married to the founder of Google is pretty laughable. He's the number one internet censor in the world. So, Nicole, if you have a problem, go talk to your ex, because I think he is the source of most of those problems.
Yeah. Is there any chance that what we talked about with Biden and Michelle Obama, that she says, listen, I'm too shy. I don't want to do it. I'm in the middle of menopause. RFK Jr., will you come back and be the Democrat nominee? Is there any chance of that happening?
No, I think there's zero chance of that, largely because RFK's position on the war in Ukraine would be anathema to today's neocon-driven Democratic Party. Again, I don't think that he is going to end up being the factor it may have looked like he would be earlier. It's interesting that at the Libertarian Party convention, his name was put in nomination. Now, under the Republican and Democrat Party rules and state law, you can't be the nominee of more than one party. The only exception to that rule is New York State. And in New York State, the Libertarians are not on the ballot, so they would have to petition their way on the ballot. But you could theoretically be the nominee, say, of the Democrat Party and the Libertarian Party, all theoretical. But I was surprised that he got about 2% of the vote. I thought he would actually do a little better than that. That would have gotten him automatic access, if he were the Libertarian Party nominee, in 37 states, which he could greatly use at this point. But he's not a libertarian. And although he did go speak to them, which I give him credit for, they evidently were not terribly enthused.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that I have learned in the last couple weeks is Trump is willing to go into the hard places. Trump is willing to have the hard conversations. He's going to New Jersey. He's going to the Bronx. He's going to the Libertarian Party saying, listen, push your votes to me. We can win. Let's join forces. He is doing the hard thing. And I'm hoping that people are seeing that going, wait a minute, we need a president who is willing to go do the hard thing in order to make America great again.
Yeah, I think he's going to go to Detroit. I think he's going to go to Philadelphia. I think he's going to go to Miami, Fort Lauderdale. I think he's going to go into all of these Democratic strongholds, and he's going to make progress. I thought it was very valiant of him to go to the Libertarian convention. It was clear that he was going to get a certain number of detractors, but I also think he turned that around by saying something that Robert Kennedy didn't say, which is that if he is elected president, that he would pardon Ross Ulbricht, which I've spoken about on my show a number of times, something I feel strongly about. I think that was a masterstroke move that kind of turned the moment. Beyond that, the Libertarian Party seems to have nominated this fellow, Chase Oliver. While he might be a very nice fellow, his views don't appear to me to be very libertarian. They agree to me to be far left progressive, open borders, transgenderism, and so on. So I think they have really departed from that Ron Paul brand of libertarianism that I was attracted to. I mean, I was a member of the Libertarian Party for 3 years after the Republicans nominated Mitt Romney, because I could see that Romney was not a conservative by any means, certainly not a libertarian. I'm proud to say I supported in 2012 the candidacy of Governor Gary Johnson of New Mexico, who was an excellent candidate and had an excellent record of cutting taxes, cutting regulation, and promoting freedom in the state of New Mexico. The Libertarian Party appears to become more of a clown show. It seems to be like one big party. It's about, I can do whatever drug I want. There's a faction that wants to legalize child pornography. I mean, it really is not a serious political party, which is very sad. The idea was to be, I think, a weight on the Republican Party, but it most certainly is not providing that today.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you say. That I saw a thing on Twitter that said, how it started, and it's Braveheart screaming and riding his horse, and how it ended, and it's a drag queen show. So thank you so much for coming on, Roger. If people want to follow you, tune into your show, where can I push them towards?
They should go to stonezone.com. Stonezone.com will tell you where you can see not only my show on Rumble, but also my show on 77 WABC radio, which you can listen to every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, but you can hear it nationwide, worldwide, actually, at WABCradio.com. But if you go to stonezone.com, you can find it all. I urge you to go there and please visit the shop. You can get copies of my books. You can get a copy of your very own Roger Stone Did Nothing Wrong t-shirt. Check it out, stonezone.com.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Steve.